Chapter 0013, Star Swordsmanship. Having said that, I can understand if you ask me to guide Luster, but what's going on with that Julius? According to the agreement, the instruction I am responsible for should be in physical arts and swordsmanship. I know nothing about Striga and magic. Claudia, hearing Luke's question, smiled and replied, "Ah, Luke, you are so humble. I know that you are quite accomplished in Seizenjutsu, and as a direct disciple of the Banyu Tenra, you have the ability to teach Seizenjutsu. The idea in your mind is so beautiful. Not to mention Seizenjutsu is not included in the collaboration. Even if I am willing to teach it, the company behind Jilong will not agree. Seizenjutsu is a secret that is not even taught to most Jilong students. Unless the Master and the Integrated Enterprise Foundation reach an agreement, no one can teach it to the outside world." Luke looked at Claudia with some confusion. She should know this. Of course, Claudia knew, so she gave Luke another sweet smile and added, "So, what about Star Swordsmanship?" When he heard the name, Star Swordsmanship, Luke's pupils shrank immediately. He stared at Claudia closely and sighed as if giving up after a while. "Should I say that you are well informed, or should I say that you are worthy of being the user of Pandora?" Seeing something strange about Luke, Claudia hugged him again as if to comfort him. "You should have made some guesses. This is indeed what you told me personally. It's not something that needs to be concealed," Claudia explained while giving benefits to Luke. The Integrated Enterprise Foundation behind Jilong 7th will also announce it in the near future. As the second unique technique of Jilong 7th, the Star Swordsmanship was created and optimized by Extreme Swordsman on the basis of Seizenjutsu. Luke looked at Claudia, who was hugging him and acting coquettishly, and suddenly felt helpless. Because it is true, as she said, Star Swordsmanship will be announced soon. This matter has been conveyed to him through Fan Xinglu, and the relevant permissions on the Star Swordsmanship have been negotiated long ago. The essence of Star Swordsmanship is the application of Seizenjutsu with a sword. It's just that the techniques used in this skill are the various sword skills that Luke has learned from Fan Xinglu in the past 2 years, as well as the 3 swordsmanship learned in the main god space. With the help of his unparalleled swordsmanship talent, the combination of the 3 was created based on Seizenjutsu. Basically, it is an application of Seizenjutsu, so although Striga's abilities and Star Swordsmanship have similar effects, I cannot guarantee all Striga will be able to learn Star Swordsmanship technique. Luke glared at Claudia, feeling a little unhappy. However, suddenly he thought about the teaching program. So, after a slight hesitation, Luke reached out and pinched her back. Then he said, "So, you haven't even asked Gluhen Rose herself, and you just settled this matter?" "Ah!" Claudia seemed startled by Luke's sudden attack. She exclaimed softly, let go of Luke, took a half step back with a blush on her face, and reached out to cover her back. "No, I just told Julius about Star Swordsmanship in advance. As for the guidance, it is Julius herself who decides whether to participate or not." Seeing Claudia's calm reaction, Luke almost understood her attitude. Basically, it is certain that because of Claudia's future vision, he has replaced the original male protagonist's role in her heart. At this time, while Luke and Claudia were conversing, the duel between Luster and Julius also came to an end. Luster eventually couldn't withstand the exhaustion and collapsed. Julius also inherited his ranking and officially became the 7th in the Seidukan Academy and one of the 12 people on page 1. "Okay, I'm done watching the duel. It's almost time for dinner. How about I treat you to a meal at our school? After dinner, you can also meet McPhail and Julius and get to know them." Seeing that the duel was over, Claudia immediately invited Luke. Unconsciously, so much time has passed. The two of them walked around the academy for a long time, and then watched a protracted duel. Because he was anxious to follow Fan Xinglu, he didn't eat much at noon, and he was indeed a bit hungry now. "Okay then, please lead the way." After thinking about it for a while, Luke still didn't refuse. It just so happens that after dinner, he can get to know Luster and Julius and listen to their thoughts. After that, Luke followed Claudia to the most exclusive student cafeteria in Seidukan Academy. Even though it is just a student cafeteria, the quality of the food served there is comparable to that of reputable restaurants outside of Asterisk City, and the price is more than 3 times more expensive than an ordinary restaurant. Luke was very satisfied with the meal, not to mention that he was accompanied by a beautiful girl with a busty figure, which was eye candy. After eating, the two took a short break and then once again came back to the training ground they had visited in the afternoon. When they arrived, Lester and Julius were already waiting for them. Luke, who was accompanying Claudia, immediately caught their attention. That is, the current top rank of Geelong 7th. When she received Claudia's notice, Julius was mentally prepared. The current top rank of Geelong 7th who could supposedly defeat Banyu Tenra was imagined by her to be older-looking, mighty and ferocious. Unexpectedly, he is so young and looks about the same age as herself. It seems that everyone is here, so let's quickly get started. On the other side, seeing Lester and Julius both present, Claudia walked directly toward Julius, and then eagerly looked at Luke like the two of them. Seeing Claudia's behavior, Luke immediately covered his forehead. Claudia, what are you doing standing over there? Didn't you say that these are your recommended students? Of course Mac Felkuin and Julius are recommended by me, but I would also like to recommend myself. Seeing Luke's helpless expression, Claudia smiled playfully at him. Then according to the agreement, Extreme Swordsmen will be invited to conduct the final review. After hearing Claudia's words, Luke remembered that the final review of recommended students is conducted by the person in charge of the agreement, which means, "Humph, do I have the right to declare you unqualified here, Claudia?" As if to retaliate against Claudia, Luke also gave her a wicked smile. Claudia, who had never expected Luke to do this, was stunned. But she immediately realized that Luke was teasing her. Humph. Immediately she turned her head with a sound, as if she was angry. Pfft. Claudia's behavior first made Julius next to her laugh. That Claudia Enfield would actually show such an expression. Although Julius and Claudia have known each other since childhood, her impression of Claudia is not very good. The shrewd and calculating image of the other party made Julius, who was a princess but grew up in an orphanage, feel very cold-blooded. Although she didn't dislike Claudia, she couldn't say she liked her either. This was also the first time she saw Claudia frustrated, and her favorable impression of Luke, who had bullied Claudia, suddenly increased. Julius' laughter made Claudia feel a bit embarrassed, and her lovely face was unconsciously stained with a trace of rosy blush. However, their interaction caused another dissatisfaction. Seeing these people joking here, Lester suddenly became a little impatient. He didn't agree to this test just to see them show affection. Hey, enough of the flirting. I don't have time to waste time with you here. Didn't you say you were conducting some sort of test? Let's get started quickly. Although a bit impatient, Lester's words still made sense. Both Julius and Claudia stopped playing around and looked at Luke. Luke also looked at them in the same way. The three of them were indeed serious. Even Claudia really wanted to pass the test and become stronger after receiving his training. Then, the three of you, attack me together. Chapter 0014, Review. This is simply a monster. Julius collapsed on the ground. She looked at Claudia and Lester, who were also unable to get up like her, and her heart was filled with frustration. This was the second time she experienced this feeling of powerlessness that seemed to freeze her soul. The last time was when she just came to Asterisk City. The friend, who was once close to her but is now a stranger, the top rank of Rewolf Black Institute, despair brought to her by Ophelia Landlofen, the Vireshkigel. She initially thought that there wouldn't be too many monsters like Ophelia in Asterisk City. Are all the top ranks in page 1 like that? Julius couldn't help but reveal a wry smile. But when she saw Claudia, who was also slumped on the ground, she suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Although it is not a good thing to talk about others behind their backs, Julius really feels that it is great that not all top ranks in page 1 are monsters. Although Claudia is also a top rank of Sedukan Academy, she is still far behind compared to other non-standard beings like Luke and Ophelia. But even if there is a difference between their strength, they are incomparable to the current Julius and Lester. Through the battle just now, Julius already had a clearer understanding of the combat capabilities of the people present. If she and Lester can be considered to be on the same level but with different development directions, then Claudia is 1 to 2 levels better than them. In the previous battle, the only one who could fight Luke was Claudia. As for Luke, Julius cast a quick glance and noted the unwavering expression on Luke's face, unchanged since before the battle. Luke stood there, idly toying with his school badge, patiently awaiting the recovery of the trio. Frustration welled up within Julius, and she couldn't help but bite her lip. She thought of the star swordsmanship that Claudia had mentioned to her before, and she quickly made a decision in her heart. Okay, since it's rest time, let me evaluate your performance. Although Luke was playing with his school badge, part of his attention was always on Julius and the others. He first set his sights on Lester. Finding that Luke was the first to look at him, Lester's heart was filled with nervousness and unwillingness. He knew that among the 3 people present, he was the weakest. Before joining forces to deal with Luke, Lester actually didn't think that he would be worse than Julius. In the duel in the afternoon, he thought he lost to the Striga, who only knew how to use traps and long-range attacks because of his carelessness. If given another chance, he believes that he will never fail again. But the battle just now made him see clearly. Although he was very unwilling, he felt that it didn't matter whether he was there or not in the battle before. He was the worst performer. And Luke looked at him first, which made him feel that his judgment was correct. However, the reality was a little different from what he thought. Lester, you are qualified. In Luke's eyes, Lester was actually the one who performed the best in the battle just now. He did not produce any substantial results, but without him, who would stand in front of Claudia and Julius again and again? Without him, it wouldn't be called a battle, but an instant kill. Contrary to Lester, Claudia, the only one who fought Luke a few times, actually didn't use her full strength at all. Come on, Claudia. It's only fair for Julius and Lester to take a seat and recover. Quit the act, Luke chided, his frustration evident. Do you think I didn't notice? You held back during the battle and even pulled that Pandora trick just to take advantage of the chaos, he continued, his tone accusing. Upon Luke's words, Claudia suddenly felt 2 cold and piercing gazes from beside her. However, Claudia was very well behaved. As if she didn't notice, she stood up and patted her skirt gently. It's too much to say that. I've tried my best. Claudia sounded like she had been wronged, and she looked pitiful. Her reaction made Lester, who had been giving her a cold gaze just now, hesitate for a moment, as if he felt that he might have wronged her. As for Julius, who had known Claudia since childhood and knew her character well, she didn't believe Claudia's words at all, and her gaze became increasingly cold and chilling. If her special ability was not fire but ice, I'm afraid Claudia would have been frozen to death by her gaze. Julius was indeed very angry. She had just praised Claudia in her heart for being able to fight against a monster of Luke's level. The next moment, she discovered that the other party was not fighting seriously at all, but relying on the power of Orga Lux Pandora to paddle along. Julius suddenly felt that her whole body was not well. Although Claudia paddled during the battle, it was also true that she played the biggest role in the battle just now. If Lester is qualified, Claudia will certainly pass as well. In the end, only Julius was left. After discovering this, Julius suddenly became nervous. She didn't know if there was any special reason why Luke left her to be the last one, such as not being qualified or something. Thinking of this, Julius felt a bit panicked, plus she thought that this hateful guy Claudia paddled through the battle. Moreover, the pressure Luke brought to her reminded her of the powerlessness she felt when facing Ophelia. Her eyes were sore, and the impact of various negative emotions made her almost cry on the spot. Although she held back the tears after discovering this and didn't really let it fall. But her moist eyes and the slight sniffles made Luke immediately realize what happened. A sense of guilt for bullying the girl emerged spontaneously, which made him feel a bit excited, no, a little embarrassed. Don't get me wrong, Riesfeld, of course you are qualified, but your situation is a bit special. Luke hurriedly explained to Julius, fearing that if there was any delay, the other party would really shed tears. After hearing Luke's explanation, Julius also understood that she was overthinking, and through Luke's reaction, it was obvious that he discovered her grievance. Suddenly, Her face turned red with embarrassment. Now not only was her eye moist, but her face was also red. She looked cute and lovely. Then why is Jules' situation so special? Seeing that the atmosphere between Jules and Luke was developing in a strange direction, Claudia immediately took over the topic. That's because I discovered some problems in the battle just now, so before declaring Jules qualified, I have a few questions to ask her. After being reminded by Claudia, Luke came to his senses and quickly added. However, he unknowingly started calling her first name instead of the more polite last name. At this time, Jules was busy sorting out her mood and did not object. Upon discovering this, Claudia's mood suddenly became a bit unhappy, but Luke had already started talking about serious stuff, and it was not convenient for her to interrupt him. Chapter 0015, Meteor Arts. Actually, I wanted to ask you during the battle just now, Jules, are you a Striga? Well, that's correct. Jules looked at Luke in confusion, wondering why he asked such an obvious question. So why did you choose the sword as your weapon? Jules was stunned for a moment, and even Claudia and Lester next to her were stunned. They thought Luke had discovered something very important, but they didn't expect it to be something so casual. But after thinking about it carefully and comparing it with the battle just now, Claudia understood what Luke meant. Even Lester looked at Jules thoughtfully. However, Jules herself does not seem to have any special views on this issue. She simply replied, "There is no special reason, just considering that I am a Striga, most of my abilities are long-range attacks, so some close-range attack methods need to be added." I guessed so. Luke scratched his head, a little worried about how to explain this problem to Jules. Let's talk about Claudia and Lester first. After thinking for a while, Luke decided to use the other two as examples first. The Orga Lux Pandora used by Claudia is a double sword, and the reason she chose this style of weapon is because the two are very compatible. At the same time, Claudia also has good swordsmanship. With the ability of Pandora, she has even developed her own unique swordsmanship style. Claudia worked hard on swordsmanship, especially on dual sword style. After all, she is neither a Striga nor has a monster-like prana reserve. The Orga Lux Pandora, although it is also a B-level equipment, does not provide her with a direct combat power bonus in battle. Even because of its side effects, Claudia's spirit has been in a state of tension all year round, which has a serious impact on the battle. It can be said that, in addition to Pandora's weird prediction ability, her outstanding dual sword style swordsmanship accounts for a large part of the reason for Claudia's position as the student council president and the #1 Gene Stellar in Sedukan Academy. If I guessed correctly, she should also be able to use more than just dual sword style. She should also be proficient in meteor arts. These are what Luke saw through some details of Claudia's sword swing in the battle just now. Meteor arts is a skill unique to Gene Stellar. Meteor arts is the process of temporarily strengthening the power of Lux. It uses a large amount of the user's prana. It is the process of temporarily overloading the Lux, and the official title is Overboosted Mana Phenomenon. It requires a considerable amount of training and precise Lux adjustments, making it something one can't use in a short period of time. Meteor arts can be said to be a veritable trump card. Regarding Luke's evaluation, Claudia just smiled and did not admit it directly. But in the eyes of Jules and Lester, this was undoubtedly the acquiescence. After Luke talked about Claudia, next is Lester. As for Lester, you must have seen it in the battle just now, Jules. Luke said to Jules while recalling Lester's performance just now. Lyshidi uses the axe-type Lux Bardishlio, which is a heavy weapon that ordinary students may not be able to wield with both hands. It is impressive that he can carry it with a single hand, which can be said to be a perfect use of his advantages in brute strength and physical stamina. And you also saw it just now, that move Burst Nemia. Meteor Art Burst Nemia. Yes, in the battle before, although there was only one move, Lester really used Meteor Arts. Lester's Meteor Arts, the blades of his Lux enlarged to double their normal size, making it appear more like a warhammer rather than an axe and sharply increasing the weapon's destructive power. This trick doesn't sound very difficult, but since it can trigger the overboosted mana phenomenon, it shows that the technical content is definitely not low. This is also proof that Lester has a very high level of mastery of the weapon in his hand. Without anyone's guidance, he was able to use meteor arts just by relying on his own efforts, which also illustrates Lester's excellent qualifications. And Julius, you. Luke organized his words for a long time. After all, the girl almost cried just now. It would be bad if he accidentally stimulated her again. However, after much deliberation, there was no tactful way, so Luke had no choice but to accept his fate and said, Julius, you give me the feeling that you are not using a sword at all, but simply waving a staff there. It's not that Julius's physical skills are particularly bad. Her physical skills can't be said to be excellent, but they are still passable. It can be seen that she usually trains hard, but the way she used her sword was really terrible. Luke hesitated for a moment, but for the sake of the other party, he still made a suggestion. Based on what you just said about melee combat, have you ever considered, exchanging sword with shield? Luke's suggestion is really not a joke. If, for Julius, swinging her sword is not a necessary step to activate her ability, then switching to a small shield will only better her performance at her current strength. A small shield-type Lux is about the same weight as the rapier-type Lux Aspera Spina, currently used by Julius. Some shields with spikes can also be used for close attacks, which has a huge advantage over rapiers in terms of defense. Moreover, it is said in the original book that as a Striga with flame ability, the fire she releases will not cause any harm to herself. This means that in close combat, as long as she can resist the opponent's attack, she can use her ability to counterattack at zero distance without worrying about being harmed. However, recommending girls to use shields or something is really not a good suggestion. After all, the way to use a shield is generally quite straightforward, which can be described as barbaric in a harsh way. Most girls probably won't accept it. Of course, Julius is also a normal girl. She refuses from the bottom of her heart to use a shield and be seen as barbaric. But now she really needs to become stronger. She has something she must do in Asterisk City, and for this, she can pay any price. It's not like I can't consider changing weapons if that's necessary. But, if possible, I would rather continue to use Aspera Spina. For Julius, this is indeed an extremely difficult decision. When he heard that Julius didn't want to give up using her sword, Luke smiled. Then let me ask you the last and most important question. Julius, do you plan to learn swordsmanship from me? You know, a rapier is also a sword. And as long as it's a sword, there's nothing Luke isn't good at. Chapter 0016, Friends. At dusk, Luke walked alone on the road back to Geelong 7th Institute. Just now, after it was officially confirmed that Claudia, Julius, and Lester had become the first batch of training subjects as per the agreement, Luke made simple arrangements for the three people's training direction. The first thing is to arrange the time. Because the three of them had completely different training directions, training together would not be of much help. At the same time, Lester was still unwilling about the fact that Julius defeated him. So, he simply separated the training time of the three people. After all, it is a protocol-based teaching, equivalent to extracurricular instruction, in nature, so Luke does not plan to spend time in Seidukan Academy all day long. He still needs to partake in his own training. Out of 7 days a week, he would set aside 3 days to provide guidance to the three of them. Considering that the atmosphere of the Seidukan Academy is different from that of Geelong 7th, Julius and the others still need to attend their classes, so each instruction actually lasts less than half a day. Other than that, Luke would give them homework and wait until the next time to check out. In Asterisk City, the most important event is, of course, the Festa, where 6 schools compete. However, it is still an academy after all, and the students there still need to attend regular classes. This class varies from school to school. Students from these 4 colleges, namely St. Galahadworth Academy, Seidukan Academy, Rewolf Black Institute, and Geelong 7th Institute, need to attend classes normally. However, the school atmosphere of Rewolf Black Institute is relatively chaotic, and there is a large number of students skipping classes on a regular basis. Therefore, if your grades or rankings are excellent, the school will not interfere with you too much. In Geelong 7th Institute, where Luke is located, the vast majority of students, like the students of St. Galahadworth Academy and Sedukan Academy, need to attend normal classes. However, there are some exceptions, that is, several outstanding disciples headed by Banyu Tenra. In Geelong 7th Institute, apart from Fan Xinglu herself, there are only 4 people who have the privilege of not having to go to class: Wu Xiaowei, Cecily Wang, Xiao Hufeng, and Luke Ashburn. Among the 4, Xiao Hufeng, because of his serious and stubborn character, would not skip classes unless ordered by Fan Xinglu or something unexpected happened. Cecily is the opposite of Xiao Hufeng. She is the type who doesn't want to go to class as much as possible. However, because she and Xiao Hufeng were in a team, Xiao Hufeng would often catch her and force her to attend classes honestly. As for Wu Xiaowei and Luke, they are the kind who don't attend class at all. Their time is basically spent on practicing, training, and sparring with Fan Xinglu. The remaining 2 academies, Arlequin Academy and Queenvale Girls Academy, are relatively special. Students at the Arlequin Academy are basically research-focused, and there are no fixed courses. All students study on their own and submit their results after conducting research. Although students at Queenvale Girls Academy theoretically need to attend classes normally, but a large part, or even almost all students, are engaged in idle work. Once they encounter work needs, according to the requirements of the college, the priority of idle career is higher than normal classes. In other words, they can skip classes openly. Students like Luke who don't need to go to regular class have plenty of time every day, but he usually spends all of it training. Nowadays, even if some time is wasted to guide 3 Sedukan students, it is more than enough. The training program will officially start next week, and the order will be Claudia, Julius, and Lester. The specific time will be arranged by Claudia and informed to them. Just thinking about it while walking, Luke slowly approached Geelong 7th Institute. He looked at the city at dusk and couldn't help but feel a bit nostalgic. This was the first time he had been out at this time. In the past 2 years, he devoted almost all his spare time and energy to spiritual practice. Now thinking about it, does he need to relax himself occasionally? At this moment, a figure appeared on the street ahead, interrupting Luke's thoughts. At dusk, there were not many people on the street. The neighborhood where Luke is located is very close to the Geelong 7th Institute, and there should be no one on the streets now. Now this figure suddenly appeared in front of him, obviously waiting for him. But Luke was not nervous because the other person was an acquaintance of his, and he could be said to be one of the few people in this city who could be considered a friend. It's so rare to see you going out at this time. Luke knew that the other party was specifically waiting for him, otherwise, based on his status, it would be unlikely that he would appear on this street, which is only a few steps away from Geelong 7th. It's a shame that you can say such a thing. I should be the one to say, rare. It was a young man wearing a pure white knight uniform with blonde hair similar to Claudia's. The dignified Pendragon actually sneaked into the gates of another school and wandered around at dusk. If this spreads out, I'm afraid your fans will be disappointed. That's right, the blonde young man in front of him who was teased by Luke was none other than Ernest Fairclough, the top-ranked Gene Steller of St. Galahadworth Academy. Okay, I'm speechless, can't I just come here to visit my friend? Ernest smiled bitterly and shook his head. He knew why Luke said that. As a user of Leglems, one of the 4-colored magic swords, maintaining a noble and upright character is part of the price he has to pay. This makes his behavior always look so noble. Not to mention hanging out in front of other schools, even going out alone at dusk is extremely rare. Nevertheless, Ernest was well aware that the individual across from him surpassed him in eccentricity, yet, unlike his counterpart, he managed to maintain a relatively conventional appearance when venturing out during daylight hours. Luke, on the contrary, was not one to frequent the outdoors often, perhaps only making an appearance once a year. Ironically, he now found reason to gripe, questioning, "Why are you here at this particular moment?" as if such encounters were exceedingly uncommon. In response, Ernest simply grinned and shrugged off the remark, understanding that Luke was merely teasing him. He was astute enough to discern the motive behind the playful banter and chose not to take it to heart. "All right, let's steer clear of these trivial matters. You're well aware of the reason behind my visit. Ernest's gaze shifted to Luke's waist, focusing on the Servaresta, holstered there with precision. I never anticipated you'd be acquainted with this sword. It's just a sword, isn't it? Luke nonchalantly remarked, though he couldn't deny the significance of Servaresta given his first-hand experience with it. He understood the specific purpose driving Ernest to seek him out. Are you truly here for a casual inspection? If action is on the agenda, I'm ready to accompany you anytime. Luke met Ernest's gaze, an eager expression playing across his face. Luke's expression made Ernest's face collapse, and he quickly said, let's forget it. In a few months, won't you have to face off against the Tereshkigal? That's not an easy opponent to deal with. Having said this, Ernest paused for a moment, and his expression became a bit lonely. Besides, I am probably no longer your match. Chapter 0017, Pendragon. You haven't made up your mind yet. Luke looked at Ernest with regret. The process of Luke and Ernest becoming friends was very strange, and few people in the entire Asterisk city knew that they were friends. In the eyes of most people in the city, Luke and Ernest should be contenders for the title of strongest swordsman. They couldn't be called enemies, but they should at least be considered competitors. How can they possibly become friends? And by sheer coincidence, they became friends just because of a chance encounter. The moment they passed each other on the street, they caught each other's attention. They sensed right away that the other person was the same type of person as themselves. It's just a pity that Ernest's path went astray, and the price of the Orga Lux Leglems suppressed too many of his possibilities. The Orga Lux Leglems is one of the 4 colored magic swords. It has the ability to cut whatever the user wants to cut and phase through what it doesn't. It can be said to be a truly undefendable weapon. It is a sword involving the space ability. Terrifying abilities often have terrifying side effects, and the cost of using them is also very heavy. The cost of Leglems is that the user must be clean and of justice according to the weapon's standards. Once he commits any evil deeds, he will be immediately abandoned by Leglems. Ernest is considered the best user of Leglems. It's not because of his high adaptability to Leglems, but because he knows how to meet the requirements of Leglems very well. He has always been cooperating with Leglems to maintain a decent image. This is the exact opposite of Luke using Servaresta. The relation between Luke and Servaresta is that Luke perfectly meets all of Servaresta's requirements, so during use, Servaresta cooperates with Luke without reservation. Ernest and Leglems, on the other hand, Ernest made himself into a person who perfectly meets all the requirements of Leglems. It is Ernest who cooperates with Leglems without any reservation. Due to family issues, Ernest had very little personal freedom. All kinds of troubles, including family shackles, no matter whether it was good intentions or bad intentions, dedication or harm, along with the cost of Leglems, Ernest accepted them all. He also once jokingly said that his only talent is to control the unchanged life around him. However, that's not what he wants. The real Ernest is actually a real swordsman. He is eager to become stronger and eager to fight. Even deep in his heart, there is a ghost spirit that ordinary swordsmen do not have. The title of Pendragon really doesn't suit him. On the contrary, the real Ernest should be a ghost swordsman or a crazy swordsman. Luke couldn't imagine how much he had to change, things that shouldn't belong to him, to become the Pendragon he is today. After the two became friends, Luke persuaded him more than once to give up Leglems. Perhaps this will lead to a decline in Ernest's strength, drastic changes in his interpersonal and social relationships so far, and may even lead to questioning within the Fairclough family. But only in this way can he continue to move forward and become stronger. However, at present, Ernest cannot do this. Because the current St. Galahadworth Academy cannot lose the Pendragon yet. Ernest sighed. Once I lose the Leglems, my strength will decline drastically, and my status in this Knight Academy will also be questioned. And in the current St. Galahadworth Academy, there is no one who can take over the banner of Pendragon. At least, my strength cannot decline before the next GRYPS Festa. After hearing what Ernest said, Luke knew he couldn't persuade him. Unlike the carefree Luke, Ernest has too many responsibilities and obligations, which prevents him from going his own way without any scruples. The expectations of his family, the expectations of his relatives, the trust of his predecessor, the entrustment of his seniors, and the support of the school all made it difficult for him to let go. But I won't let you wait too long. Ernest's eyes flashed with determination, and he looked at Luke with endless gratitude and endless fighting spirit in his heart. Thanks to the method you taught me, it won't take long for me to give up Leglams without losing strength, and even become stronger. At that time, there must be a battle between us. Luke looked at Ernest, who was burning with fighting spirit, and felt very happy in his heart. Have you figured it out so quickly? You are worthy of being a Pendragon. Ernest took a deep look at Luke. Although there must be a battle between the two, he knew that he had little hope of winning in the battle. In terms of swordsmanship, there is no doubt that Luke is higher than him, and now he has acquired a powerful weapon like Cerberesta. And on the other hand, he was about to choose to give up using Leglams. No matter how one looked at it, he didn't have much chance of winning. But it's not that he has no chance of victory. Luke and Ernest have been looking forward to this battle for a long time, and neither of them will let this duel end in disappointment. After the important things were said, the atmosphere between the two became peaceful. At this time, Ernest suddenly smiled. Speaking of which, I really didn't know you had this type of skill, Luke. Ernest's smile left Luke a bit confused. He felt that the Pendragon might have had a brain twitch. Ernest saw Luke's face full of confusion and asked with some hesitation, "Don't you know? The whole city is going crazy. What happened?" Luke became even more confused. Didn't he just go to Seducan Academy? What happened in just half a day that could have anything to do with him? Realizing that Luke really didn't know anything, Ernest pressed the school badge, and the projection interface of the news website in Asterisk City immediately appeared in front of the two of them. After Luke saw clearly what was displayed on the interface, the corner of his mouth suddenly twitched. Unbelievable. Guess who the Seducan Academy's Student Council President is caught meeting with? Exclusive news. A certain Student Council President is dating a mysterious man in the school. Society is in decline, and people's moral values are not what they used to be. The president of Seducan Academy's Student Council is openly embracing a man in broad daylight within the academy. Underneath these titles are some photos taken when Claudia took Luke to visit the school today. The photo is not very clear. It is obvious that the photographer was afraid of being discovered, so he hid far away and in a very hidden place, which affected the picture quality. Chapter 0018, Wood Faction and Water Faction. Because the photo wasn't that clear, and Luke rarely showed up in the city, most people probably wouldn't be able to tell who was standing beside Claudia. But familiar people, like Ernest, who were friends with Luke, could tell at a glance. To be honest, I was quite worried before about whether a practitioner like you would ever find a girlfriend. I didn't expect you to act so quickly. There was obvious teasing in Ernest's words. The other party turned out to be the famous Parka Morta. Today must be the first time you two have met. I didn't expect you to be so talented in this aspect. Listening to Ernest's teasing, Luke glared at him and said angrily, "Shut up now. If you keep gossiping, you're not afraid that Leglams will abandon you now." Faced with Luke's counterattack, Ernest shrugged and said, "Anyway, I didn't bring Leglams with me when I came out today." After speaking, he opened his hands and waved his empty hands in front of Luke. Luke was speechless for a moment. He looked at Ernest and found that he did not carry the iconic pure white two-handed sword. He hesitated for a moment, then reluctantly said, "That was in the afternoon. Claudia acted as a guide and introduced me to Seducan Academy. We don't have any intimate relationship yet. The news on the internet is just random speculation." "Oh, you've already started calling her Claudia." Ernest keenly discovered the key to Luke's words and gave him a meaningful smile. "Okay, if you have nothing else to say, go away, gossiping Pendragon." That visit was due to a formal agreement between Argilong 7th and Seducan Academy. It will be formally proposed at the next meeting between your student council presidents. Luke felt that continuing this topic would be very detrimental to him, so he decisively turned around and left, returning to Jilong 7th. Ernest looked at his leaving back and smiled. It was rare for him to have an upper hand in the verbal exchange. This feeling was quite fresh. After chatting with Ernest for a while, the sky was getting a little dark now, and little stars began to dot the sky. However, Luke was feeling a little depressed at this time. He had known Ernest for about a year. In the process of getting along with each other, Luke had always been teasing Ernest through the topic of Les Glems, but unexpectedly, the other party had taken today's opportunity and teased him in turn. However, after thinking that Ernest was finally freed from the shackles of Les Glems, Luke was sincerely happy for him, and also very much looking forward to the showdown between them. As for his date with Claudia, he really didn't feel much. Although the two of them did hold hands along the way, and they were indeed hugging and embracing each other. But in Luke's opinion, his main purpose was to visit Sedukan Academy. He really didn't have much awareness of the intimate behavior between the two at the time. He didn't expect that he would be secretly photographed and cause such a big fuss. Luke could only look forward to it in his heart, hoping that as time goes by, the heat of this matter would decrease. The person who took the candid photo caused the picture to be unclear due to the distance. It is really a blessing among misfortunes. After all, although it is basically inferred that Claudia's passion for him is because of Pandora, and judging from the original work, the credibility is also very high. However, just relying on guesses and conjectures cannot make Luke completely believe in Claudia. It is even more nonsense that the two immediately became lovers. But Claudia does not have any ill intentions towards him at present, so this does not prevent Luke from having contact with Claudia, and he will not be too wary or trustful of Claudia because of this. If Claudia really has no ill intentions towards him, then the two of them will naturally slowly become friends in the subsequent contact. Hello, senior brother Luke. Luke walked all the way across the school, planning to return to his dormitory in Aushinden to relax. At a corner, he was stopped by someone familiar, but the other party was obviously surprised to meet Luke. Luke looked in the direction of the sound. Two men were walking towards him. Judging from the way they were covered in sweat, they must have just finished exercising and were planning to go back to the dormitory to rest. Junior brother Song and junior brother Luo, it's you two, what's the matter with stopping me? Song Ran and Luo Kunzhen were ranked 20th and 23rd respectively in Jilong's 7th Institute. Although Luke calls the two of them junior brothers, they are actually older than Luke. In Jilong, the disciples of Banyu Tenra are not ranked according to age, but only according to the order of entry. As Fan Xinglu's 4th disciple, Luke is now the top rank in Jilong's 7th Institute. He can be said to be a well-deserved senior among the students. No. Nothing happened. I was just a little surprised to see senior brother Luke at this time. I subconsciously called out. When Song Ran and Luo Kunzhen faced Luke, they acted a little reserved. This can't be blamed on them. Luke's reputation among the Jilong 7th is quite high, especially among the Wood faction. As mentioned before, the students of Jilong's 7th Academy are mainly divided into two factions, the Water faction, who practices Seizenjutsu, and the Wood faction, who practices physical techniques. The two factions are basically hostile to each other. The general situation is that the people of the Water faction look down on Wood faction idiots who can't even learn the unique skills of Jilong 7th, while the people of the Wood faction sneer at the Water faction's pride and arrogance. For a long time, the resentment between the two factions has been quite deep, and it has almost reached the point of incompatibility. This has also made the leaders of the two factions very distressed. No, it should be said that the leader of the Wood faction is very distressed. The current leader of the Wood faction is Xiao Hufeng, the third disciple of the Banyu Tenra. The leader of the Water faction is Reijiki Senka, Cecily Wang, the second disciple of Banyu Tenra. As for Wu Xiaowei and Luke, they rarely move around the school because they have lived in Aushinden for a long time. Therefore, they are generally not counted among the two factions. They can be said to be very rare idlers among the Jilong 7th students. In fact, if Fan Xinglu planned to intervene, this grudge would not be a problem at all under the name of Banyu Tenra. But Fan Xinglu's attitude towards her disciples has always been, only teach skills, not principles. She had no interest in the petty quarrel between the Wood faction and the Water faction, and was too lazy to pay attention to it. Cecily, the leader of the Water faction, has inherited this point from her master. She also does not impose too many restrictions on the members of Water faction under her, and allows them to do whatever they want. Chapter 0019, Zhao Hufeng. The grudges and frictions between the two factions became more and more intense, and Fan Xinglu and Cecily basically ignored them. This is very difficult for Zhao Hufeng. As the leader of the Wood faction, Zhao Hufeng, who has a serious and stubborn character, will certainly not sit idly by and ignore this matter. Although Zhao Hufeng looks petite and cute, he has always looked easy to bully before Fan Xing showed up, but his ability to do things is quite excellent. Among the students, he is the 6th in the rank of Jilong 7th and the 3rd disciple of the Banyu Tenra. He owns an Orga Lux called Tsutensoku in his hand, and his reputation is quite high. Compared to Fan Xinglu, who acted as she pleased, Zhao Hufeng, who was always busy and worried about his master's shenanigans, was actually more like the student council president of Jilong 7th. Moreover, Zhao Hufeng's strength is not weak. He is quite famous in the entire Asterisk City. He was once known as the Tenkamuzu and was highly anticipated. Even though the Orga Lux he has isn't super powerful on its own, it significantly boosts his combat abilities when Zhao Hufeng uses it. Orga Lux, Tsutensoku. Sea level, combat boots type equipment. Tsutensoku, formerly Hermes Flying Shoes, is an Orga Lux owned by Jialong 7th Institute, previously belonging to Rewolf Black Institute. It enhances the user's speed and destructive power to some extent. This Orga Lux enables the user to move through the air, essentially granting them the ability to fly. Perhaps due to its moderately impressive ability, the associated cost is not overly burdensome. The only price of utilizing Tsutensoku is a slight drain on the user's physical stamina. For a physical arts expert like Zhao Hufeng, this cost is virtually negligible, considering his mastery of such skills. While Tsutensoku may not be deemed exceptional among Orga Lux, its capabilities align seamlessly with Zhao Hufeng's expertise. Just envisioning a speed-focused martial artist who can take to the skies reveals the terror this equipment can unleash. Zhao Hufeng, who wears Tsutensoku, can even compare with Luke, who uses God/Divine speed in terms of agility. In the original book, his speed is ranked first among the 6 academies. However, due to personality issues, Zhao Hufeng has always been opposed to the use of Orga Lux. In his opinion, relying on external forces to become stronger is proof of immaturity for a martial artist. Therefore, although everyone knows that Zhao Hufeng possesses a useful Orga Lux, very few people can witness him using it. Zhao Hufeng has always tried his best to restrain the members of Wood faction and tried to ease the conflict between the two factions. The Wood faction members who practice physical arts did not disappoint Zhao Hufeng. Most of the Wood faction members have a typical martial-style personality worthy of their reputation. Coupled with Zhao Hufeng's restraint and persuasion, members of Wood faction basically ignored members of Water faction. Although Zhao Hufeng was Fan Xinglu's 3rd disciple, he also had a considerable reputation among the students. But after all, he is a member of the Wood faction, and his influence on Water faction is limited, coupled with the inaction of Fan Xinglu and Cecily. For a period of time, there was even a situation in the entire Jilong 7th, where members from the Water faction were completely dismissive of Wood faction. Zhao Hufeng has complained to Cecily more than once for this reason. It's funny to say that the members of Wood faction and Water faction are hostile to each other, but the leaders of the two factions, Zhao Hufeng and Cecily, have a particularly good relationship. In the last 2-person team battle at Phoenix Festa, the two even formed a partnership and won the runner-up, narrowly losing to the combination of Arlequin Academy. Despite Cecily's captivating appearance, featuring long, wavy light brown hair and well-defined features that set her apart in Jialong, she surprisingly maintains a disheveled daily life. Disliking trouble and showing no interest in organizing her room, she often turns to Zhao Hufeng for assistance. Cecily enjoys playing the role of an older sister to Zhao Hufeng, adding a dynamic of care and guidance to their relationship. As Luke became more familiar with them, he couldn't resist teasing Zhao Hufeng and Cecily about their interactions, jokingly referring to them as a young couple simply navigating their lives. Interestingly, it took Luke's teasing for Zhao Hufeng and Cecily to realize the nature of their relationship. The playful banter shed light on something they had overlooked. Whenever Luke teased him, Zhao Hufeng would blush and stammer, while Cecily, although not much better, would maintain a facade of calm cuteness. However, the two of them had no intention of making changes. Instead, with Luke's assistance, their relationship has become somewhat ambiguous. The relationship between Zhao Hufeng and Cecily is getting better and better, but the problems between Wood faction and Water faction are getting worse. In the end, Zhao Hufeng had no choice but to ask Luke for assistance. Being able to make the stubborn Zhao Hufeng come and ask for help from his junior brother, one can imagine how serious the problems between the two factions were at that time. Although Luke knows some Saizenjutsu, he still majors in swordsmanship after all. If we really want to distinguish him, he is indeed a member of Wood faction. Therefore, after receiving Zhao Hufeng's request, Luke did not refuse and publicly declared his support for Wood faction in the academy. With the support of the number one in the rank, the Wood faction naturally became more confident, and the Water faction also restrained themselves because they were afraid of Luke. The dispute between the two factions has gradually come to an end. It was also because of this incident that Luke's reputation within the academy, especially among the Wood faction, was unprecedentedly high. It also made Zhao Hufeng feel that he owed Luke a favor. Song Ran and Luo Kunzhen are members of Wood faction, so they will inevitably be a little cautious when facing Luke. However, I really envy the people from Sedukan Academy who can actually get personal guidance from senior brother Luke. Thinking of what he heard this afternoon, Luo Kunzhen said with some envy. Song Ran on the side, although a little embarrassed to be so straightforward in front of Luke, had a look of approval on his face. Hearing Luo Kunzhen's words, Luke's expression changed, and he asked the two of them, "This matter was just decided today. Did it spread so quickly?" "It's like this. Because senior brother rarely leaves Aoshinden, today senior brother went out with Master, which aroused the curiosity of many people. In addition, Master was alone when she came back in the afternoon, so many people asked about it." Seeing that Luke was a little confused, Song Ran opened his mouth to explain. "It seems that Master has no intention of hiding this matter. After someone asked senior brother Zhao to inquire about it, it basically spread around the academy." Speaking of this, Song Ran scratched his head in embarrassment. Observing Song Ran's silence, Luo Kunzhen beside him stepped in to carry on. "Senior brother Luke, as you're well aware, your open endorsement of the Wood faction has made the Water faction quite attentive to your actions. With an incident like this, news has inevitably circulated among members of both the Wood faction and Water faction. It's safe to say it's become a topic of discussion within the academy, hasn't it?" Chapter 0020, Gossip. After listening to Song Ran and Luo Kunzhen's explanations, Luke felt a bit enlightened. However, he noticed Song Ran's little movements when he spoke just now and asked a little suspiciously, "Junior brother Song, just now you said that someone asked senior brother Zhao to inquire about this matter, which caused it to spread in the academy. This person, it couldn't be you, right?" "Huh? I'm not. I didn't. I really didn't know that senior brother was going on a date with the student council president of Sedukan Academy." After being exposed by Luke in person, Song Ran suddenly fell into a state of panic. It looked like he was responsible for the spread of this matter. Okay, now Luke understands everything. Looking at Song Ran's panicked look, the culprit for the rumor was right in front of him. Combining what they said before and doing a little analysis, Luke figured out the general process. Most likely, Luke and Fan Xinglu were spotted by Song Ran, who happened to be passing by when they came out, and his curiosity was aroused. As they said before, it is a rare occurrence for Luke to leave Aoshinden, let alone leave the academy and go out with Fan Xinglu, which will, of course, arouse the curiosity of other students. If that was the case, then Song Ran wouldn't even bother to inquire about it. But in the afternoon, when Fan Xinglu came back, she was alone, and Luke, who had gone out with her, was missing. Now Song Ran really couldn't hold back his curiosity, so he went to Zhao Hufeng to ask about the matter. Of course, Song Ran didn't mean any harm. With Luke's reputation in Jilong's 7th Institute, if it were other students, he's afraid they would do the same thing, just like a groupie who accidentally sees a celebrity going out and wants to know where the other party is going out of curiosity. If it was really a confidential matter, Zhao Hufeng would definitely refuse Song Ran's inquiry, and Song Ran would not delve into it further. Zhao Hufeng, who was questioned by Song Ran, certainly knew why Luke went out with Fan Xinglu for some agreement, but in the afternoon, he had no idea why Fan Xinglu came back alone. Zhao Hufeng was probably a little curious about this, so he used Song Ran as an excuse to ask Fan Xinglu. Of course, Fan Xinglu had no intention of hiding this matter. She might even have deliberately said that Luke was on a date with Claudia out of revenge or fun. It can only be said that after these 2 years of getting along, Luke has a pretty deep understanding of Fan Xinglu's character, which is somewhat true since Fan Xinglu really said this to Zhao Hufeng. This is what Fan Xinglu said when asked by Zhao Hufeng. Hufeng, Luke will probably come back very late today. He is currently flirting with the student council president of Sidukan Academy. Of course, Zhao Hufeng, who has a serious personality, would not think that his master was joking. He completely took Fan Xinglu's joke as truth. Who would have known that Fan Xinglu was in bad luck? Later that night, the news that the student council president of Sidukan Academy was dating a strange guy appeared all over the internet. After seeing the photos circulating on the internet, Zhao Hufeng immediately confirmed that it was Luke himself, and now it was even more confirmed. Both the witness and the physical evidence were present, which convinced Zhao Hufeng that Luke had gone out on a date, so he found Song Ran and responded to his inquiry. In Zhao Hufeng's eyes, this was not something that needed to be concealed, so when he replied to Song Ran, he did not avoid others. This matter spread like wildfire, and eventually the entire academy knew that Luke was going to help Sidukan Academy train some students and take this opportunity to go out and date Claudia Enfield. In fact, if Luke and Claudia were really a couple, this would be a good thing. The problem is that the relationship between the two is not this kind, and their non-existent relationship is hyped up, which may only bring trouble to them. However, Luke didn't intend to blame Song Ran for this. After all, the other party didn't know the reason. Even if he wanted to blame, it would be his senior brother Zhao's fault. He would write down this grudge first. Looking at the flustered Song Ran, Luke also felt a bit funny. Okay, you don't have to be envious of Sidukan Academy students. I'm basically in Aoshindan. If you want to ask anything, just come over at any time. There's no need to be so formal. Luke is not so rigid. If his junior brothers and sisters come to ask for advice, he is also very willing to waste time giving them advice. Everyone is from the same school. From Luke's point of view, they are family, so there is no need to be so polite. On this point, Zhao Hufeng and others actually hold the same view, but, of course, we know that senior brother won't mind. It's just that we can't push ourselves too far just because of our senior brother's tolerance. Once or twice is okay, but if it happens too many times and it affects our relationship, then it's our fault. When he said these words, Luo Kunzhan's eyes flashed with determination. Fan Xinglu now has more than 40 direct disciples in Jilong 7th. Although they are all direct disciples in name, there are still some differences in reality. Although it has not been publicly recognized, there is still a saying of core disciples among direct disciples. Those who are said to be core disciples are actually Wu Xiaowei, Cecily, Zhao Hufeng, and Luke Ashburn. It is not wrong to say that the 4 of them are core disciples, because compared to other disciples, the 4 of them are obviously more loved by Fan Xinglu. When it comes to teaching skills, Fan Xinglu certainly treats everyone equally without any favoritism. But apart from teaching time, only Luke and the 4 of them can move with Fan Xinglu and often enter and leave the depths and core areas of Aoshindan. So privately, Luke and the others are also called core disciples by other disciples. Even among their 4 core disciples, they are actually divided into 2 levels. Being qualified to compete with Fan Xinglu, Wu Xiaowei, and Luke's status are obviously much higher than that of Cecily and Zhao Hufeng. Some time ago, there was a dispute between the Water faction and the Wood faction. Before Luke intervened, the reason why the Water faction had the upper hand was that a pair of disciples appeared in the Water faction, and they were very likely to enter the inner circle. The Li twins are Li Qinyun, the 9th in the rank of Zhilong 7th, Janae Xinqi, and Li Chenhua, the 10th in rank, Janae Muzin. The 2 of them, brother and sister, can be said to be experts in Saizenjutsu. Their use of Saizenjutsu far surpasses that of ordinary students. Especially in terms of illusion, they both have unique talents. If it weren't for their bad personalities, which aroused Zhao Hufeng's dislike for them, they might have joined the circle of core disciples by now.